Hello, and welcome back to another session of grammar and usage mini lessons. In this session, we're going to focus on nouns. Okay, nouns, categories of nouns, various classifications, how to form them, how to change their forms, genders, numbers, etc. Right? So let's get started. The first easy category, a very easy classification, is whether a noun is a proper noun or a common noun. Now, a proper noun refers to a specific person, place, or a thing. And the common noun refers to the class or category or the whole kind of that thing. For example, Jack is a specific boy. Jack is a proper noun and boy is the common noun, boy being the noun for the whole category or the kind. There are a million boys in the world, so the boy becomes the common noun or the general noun, and Jack is a specific example. This should be fairly easy to understand. City is a general concept and Bombay is a specific city. River is a general class or kind or a concept, and Ganga is a specific example of that. Okay, what we want to do while learning grammar is not only learn it in terms of rules and formulas and just terms and verbs on a sheet of paper. We want to see it and connect it to the world around us. We want to observe it in action in the world around us. So we see that this is an observation not only about words and nouns, it is an observation about the world, that there is a general of the thing and there is a specific of the thing. Your name and in fact you yourself are a specific human being, and human being is a general class or category, right? So get this idea that whatever is happening in the grammar is there in the world around you. So while learning these rules and classifications, etc., just don't learn them on a piece of paper, try and see them around you, right? So essentially, proper nouns are specifics and common nouns are general. Now, if you have gone through your reading comprehension lessons, or you can click on them right now and go through them, this idea is very, very important in your reading comprehension, because it's a very important ability to distinguish between general and specific information. To know more about this idea, click on the link for the reading comprehension lesson. Okay. Now, small rules, and I'm sure a couple of these you would start remembering from your school days soon enough. Example is that proper nouns always start with the capital letter, right? So whenever you're writing your name, you start with the capital. If your name is Ram, you start with the capital R, right? If your name is Jack, you start with the capital J, right? That's a very common rule. Everybody seems to be aware of it, but that's a rule associated with proper nouns. You have to remember this rule, that whenever proper nouns are used, they started with capital letter. There is no such need for using a capital letter with a common noun, right? Another thing that happens, and it's also an observation, is that look at the sentence: Pune is the Oxford of the East, right? Now, Oxford is a specific city in England, right? It's actually a specific or a proper noun. But in the sentence, this word Oxford is acting as a common noun, right? Why? Because in this sentence, Oxford is not working as a specific name of a city in England. It is working as an educational college oriented city. So Oxford becomes the general class or category name for cities which are oriented around education, right? So this happens when a specific case of something, when a specific example of something becomes so famous that it becomes bigger than the category or becomes as good as the category. So for example, we can use Tendulkar's name. Tendulkar is a batsman from India, and we can use his name to generalize now great batsmanship or good batsmanship. So I can say so and so is the new Tendulkar of India, or so and so is the Tendulkar of this team, right? Or he is the Rahul Dravid of this team, because Rahul Dravid, again, he is a specific example of a kind of a batsman, but now his name can be used to generalize the idea of good defensive batting. So whenever a specific noun becomes so powerful that it can sometimes overtake the common noun. Just an observation. Okay, moving on. Another classification or label for nouns is the idea of collective nouns. Now, again, in the world around us, we have seen a lot of times there are group of things, right? So, for example, an army, a team, a crew, a jury, right? A pack of wolves, a herd of cows. So there is a group of things, and the name for the group is there is a different name given to the group of things. So a group of soldiers is known as an army. A group of men who come together to make a decision, typically in legal cases, is known as a jury, right? A group of workers working in a factory or a group of sailors working on a ship is known as a crew. A group of wolves is known as a pack of wolves, or a set of cards is also known as a pack of cards, right? So a collective noun is one word for a group of things, right? So the idea is fairly easy. You can also find a list of collective nouns. You can do a very simple search and find it out for yourself. There are a lot of collective nouns in the world, so that could be a simple enough quiz or practice for you. For example, what is a collective noun for a group of crows? Or what is a collective noun for a group of owls, right? Or what is a collective noun for a group of lawyers? So you can start, these are questions for you to work out. So this idea is fairly easy, but again, how it connects to our exam point of view is there's whole another subject, a category of errors known as subject-verb agreement. We learned what is the subject in the session 1. Subject is the hero, the doer of the sentence, and verb is the action. So there should be some agreement between the subject and verb. Agreement in what? Agreement in numbers. We'll come to numbers soon enough, but just to understand the idea right now, when you use the word army, you will say the army is moving, not the army are moving, right? Whereas just to understand the idea, you say Ram is moving and they are moving. So when it's singular, you use is, and when it's plural, you use are, right? But in the case of army, the word army represents a plural thing, but we use the singular form. Army is moving, the team is playing. Why is that? Because though it represents a plural number, this whole thing, the whole group starts working as one entity or one identity. Therefore, we use the is instead of an are more often than not. There will be exceptions to this rule. But again, we're not supposed to go into the subject-verb agreement right now. I'm just telling you how a very simple idea of collective noun later connects with a higher concept of matching subject and verb in numbers, right? So just get that idea. Otherwise, for today, you can start finding a list of collective nouns. I've already given you some ideas on how to do that. Okay. Abstract nouns. Now, there are nouns we learned earlier are names of things. Now, things are of two types. There are physical things in the world: table, chairs, sofas, cushion, wall, door, window, etc., etc. And there are abstract or conceptual things in the world, right? Honesty, for example, can you see honesty? Can you touch honesty? Can you hold honesty in your hand? But there is a concept of honesty, or qualities, concepts of qualities, right? Goodness, kindness, poverty, right? So these are not things which can be touched or held or tasted or smelled, but they still exist in the world in forms of ideas or concepts, right? So these nouns, which represents non-physical things, things in the realm of ideas or thought, are known as abstract nouns, right? There are three kinds of them. From nouns of quality, right? Like honesty, goodness, kindness, poverty. Nouns of that represent the idea of the action, for example, laughter, theft, growth. And nouns of state, boyhood, childhood, womanhood, etc., right? So qualities, actions, and states. How are they formed? The words of the abstract nouns of quality are typically formed from adjectives. For example, the adjective is honest. From that, the noun is formed honesty. The adjective is good. From that, the noun is formed goodness. Similarly, kind, the adjective is kind. From that, the word is formed kindness, etc. From verbs, laugh is the verb, thieving is the verb, grow is the verb. From the verb, we get the idea of the action, and the verb becomes, from laugh, it becomes laughter. From thieving, it becomes theft. From grow, it becomes growth. We'll worry about how exactly the rules are there of forming, but just understand the idea for now that adjectives can be converted into nouns, verbs can be converted into nouns, right? And lastly, the words of state, they are typically created from common nouns. So the common noun, for example, was boy. From that, you create a state of being a boy, that is boyhood. The common noun is child. From that, you create a state of being a child, that is childhood. And the same logic goes for womanhood, right? So these are abstract nouns and how they are formed from adjectives or verbs or common nouns, etc. Another category of looking at nouns is whether the nouns are countable or uncountable. Okay, for example, apples are countable and milk is not. Right? You can have 5 apples or 7 apples or 2 apples or 1 apple, but you can't see 1 milk or 2 milk or 7 milk, right? There is just milk. You will say that no, there are 2 liters and 3 liters of milk, right? But again, the 2 and the 3, the numbers working on the liter, not on the milk itself, right? The idea is also being things that you can see very clearly in the nature as discretely countable, like when you see 1 horse, 2 horse, 3 horse, 4 horse, and rice, which you can't, there are a lot of small grains of rice, right? But you can't see how many different items are there. It's just a pile of rice, right? So that's the difference between countable and uncountable nouns. One can be counted, the other cannot be counted. Now, once again, the idea is fairly easy, but later this comes again handy with the idea of subject-verb agreement in numbers. And what adjectives do you use before these countable and uncountable words, right? So for example, adjectives like few and many are used with the countable nouns. You will say, give me a few apples, or there are many tables and many chairs, right? But you won't say, give me a few milk, or give me a few oil, or give me a few rice. What will you say? Give me some rice, or give me little rice, right? A couple of adjectives which work on both of them are some and any. You can say, give me some apples. You can also say, give me some milk. You can say, are there any apples? And you can also say, is there any milk? The other thing is that for countable, there is a plural form. We haven't discussed singular and plural, but it's a very common idea that there is a one, when there is a 1 in number, and when the number is more than 1. So for countable nouns, when you put an S in the end, it becomes a plural, right? Apple becomes apples, horse becomes horses. But milk does not become milks. You don't say, give me more milks, right? The milk remains the same. Oil, rice, honesty, fear, they don't change form from singular to plural. So that is another property of uncountable nouns compared to countable nouns. Countable nouns do change forms from singular to plural, and uncountable have only one form. Okay, again, this idea will be all put together when we learn further about verbs. Then finally we'll put them all together in a concept called subject verb agreement. Or if you have a grammar book nearby or a test prep material or something, you can start looking at this chapter right now just to see an idea of how things come together. Okay, that's it. In the theme of keeping the lessons mini, hopefully this still remained a mini lesson. Next session in nouns, we'll look at the gender categories in nouns like male, female, and neuter. The idea of numbers in noun, whether the nouns are singular or plural, and how to convert them from one form to another. And the idea of cases, whether the noun is in the subjective case, objective case, or the possessive case. What is subjective and objective? You should look at lesson number 1 to grasp that idea. That's it for today. See you very, very soon.